Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Applesauce, and welcome to GrokRockRadio. And I'm here with my co-host, Gruk.
Hi.
That's Gruk, and with our special guest, Manatee, our first ever guest on the show. Manatee, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty great, dude.
All right, that's pretty neat. That's pretty Kekona, my friend. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Let's get right into the big picture. All right, lads, we're here to have a conversation. Okay, so first of all, Overwatch, from the BBC.com news technology section, Overwatch, bigger than Premier League, the Premier League. And as it states, its developer Activision Blizzard has just announced the first 7 team owners for a forthcoming league. It believes in time the tournament could prove more lucrative than the UK's Premier League, which is the football's highest earning competition. Which is kind of insane to think that something that's been around, longer than this country has, a sport, is going to be being outdone in terms of financial gain by a video game. Several of the successful bidders have made their mark with traditional teams, and the buy-in price has not been cheap. The BBC understands the cost right now is about $20 million per squad. For that, owners get the promise of a 50% revenue split with the Overwatch League itself for future earnings. The fast-paced cartoon-like shooter was designed to appeal to both players and spectators. It's low on gore and features a racial mix of male and female heroes, including a gay character, a relative variety in gaming. Do you guys know who the gay character is?
I had no idea.
Has Blizzard actually said that there's an actual gay character?
Yes. Homosexual
Who is
characters in my video game?
Who is it,
More
Grok?
likely than you think.
Tracer?
Oh yeah! I totally fucking forgot.
Are you serious? You actually forgot that?
I forgot, man. I wasn't thinking I just had like Zarya in the back of my head. Unlike most esports competitions, each team will be based in a different major city to help the owners attract home crowds. That's right. What they're planning to do is that you could go to like a local stadium in, like bigger cities. Like I'm sure that Texas and California and New York are going to have like a little stadium for esports. Or something converted into an esports tournament. That way you can, say, hey, this is a Texas team, this is a California team specifically, and it should be similar to, all over Europe and Asia. If you want to reach 18 to 35-year-olds, you really need to know where they are and that they're playing video games, Activision Blizzard's chief executive Bobby Kotick told the BBC. The other thing that we offer uniquely is that Overwatch is a very family-friendly game experience. It's team-rated game, it's super colorful, super friendly, and if you look at the geographical diversity of the maps or the ethnic and racial diversity of the characters, those are all things that we took into consideration in the construction of what we thought would be a globally appealing experience. And I'm actually, personally, I like this sort of viewpoint where it's not being diverse for the sake of being diverse to appease somebody else. It's to, as they say, be looked at globally with, many people around the world. It's not being accepted because of acceptance sake. To start, teams are expected to make use of existing venues, but in time, Activision Blizzard believes owners will build huge dedicated stadiums of their own. Fixtures will also be streamed online and be made accessible from within the game itself. So, Grok, what are your thoughts on the fact that the league isn't out yet? This article was posted about 9 hours ago. So what do you think about the fact that the cost of a single team is roughly $20 million to get yourself a solid spot within the league?
Oh, I mean, I guess it's just going to be a very, not inclusive thing. They're not really appealing to the average high-tier player, I guess. They're appealing to the people who are already on the big meme teams or whatever. NRG and all that. But I don't know, I guess it kind of sucks.
Yeah, with it being $20 million, that means that people who have already established an esport in other groups Something like Team Solo Mid has a ridiculous amount of money, right? So you can expect that whenever the league comes out, they're likely to buy a team, or at least buy a spot for a team in the future. I believe Team Solo Mid actually got rid of their team, right? Their Overwatch team? I could be wrong in that. But, you know, Cloud9...
I don't remember them actually ever having one. I could be wrong on that.
It was some team that was similar to Team Solo Mid that had just removed its roster. I think it's the team that had that guy, was his Battle.net? Like, that was his username, THE?
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking disgusting. So, Manny, what's your thoughts on that? On the fact that a single team could cost up to $20 million?
Up to $20 million, that's a pretty intense cost considering how... In comparison, they've dumped so little into Overwatch contenders, trying to bring up all those people. Like the prize pool for contenders is what, like $50,000. Meanwhile, you know, for a game that hasn't even fully been released yet, Bethesda and ID are already putting out $1 million prize pool for the Quake Champions tournament that they announced at E3. Seems kind of strange that they would make the cost so high, but I mean. I guess if you're this like esports stuff is getting pretty serious, it's quite a insane figure to think about, really.
I think it also forced people to have like prior investment knowledge. Like you can't own a team without like, you know, there's just no way that any average Joe or a businessman can say like this costs $20 million and look at his investors, look at his shareholders and say this will be the smart decision. You know, you really do have to have somebody who is financially intelligent already. Like that way they can decide whether or not this 20 million is worth it. So it's likely also like a safety net, if you will, that, you know, you won't have stupid people owning different teams or making bad decisions. Typically speaking, you should find people who have the ability to pay $20 million for a seat in a league that isn't even real yet. Those people would likely already be, you know, smart and financially secure.
Absolutely.
At least I hope so.
And seeing as that there's only 7 teams to start with, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room there.
Yeah. Grok, what are your thoughts on the fact that there are going to be regional home teams? Like I said, there could be a Texas team, a California or New York team, since those are the big 3 places when everyone else thinks of America. Those are the 3 big ones that come up. And you look at... Grok, have you ever been to like a football or a baseball stadium? Like an actually like a professional game?
Yeah, I used to watch Phillies with my dad. That was fun. I went to games a couple times.
Imagine that, but esports. Your thoughts?
That'd be pretty lame.
That'd be pretty what?
Lame?
Pretty lame?
Yeah, dude, you just sit, like, alright, you could just sit at home, right? And just watch it on your screen, right? But nah, you're gonna go fucking pay money to get tickets to watch some guys in a booth on computers.
But I mean, like, you say that, but like, you pay money to see a guy grab a ball and hit a bunch of other dudes.
Well, that's cool though, because they're hitting each other.
That's but you're missing the point of the game if all you're looking for is like waiting to see the crash whenever you go see, you know, the Daytona 700 or whatever. You're
saying there's other things at Daytona?
Yeah.
There's not a lot, but there is, yes.
Like wanting to watch the race, you know, seeing who will win. People line up for droves about that. And you see in these, you know, like the tournament booths, you look out there and you're like, holy shit, all these people are getting really fucking excited. And they're like, you know, fucking smashing their little plastic balloons together and noisemakers and shit. These people get fucking hype over a video game. Like, being there live, I guarantee you, you might be willing to follow the crowd mentality and make some noise yourself.
No.
Fuck you. Manatee, your thoughts?
It's certainly, if we were to make esports more mainstream, it'd certainly be a culture shock at first, because not a lot of people think of video games as, you know, like something that you go and watch. Like, the average person's going to be like, why would you go pay to watch a video game when you can just play it yourself?
Yeah, there's also, you're part of a collegiate team, right?
I was, yes, for during the fall semester.
So you were part of the, I suppose, the first generation of school video games, school esports as a sport.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to see the opportunity to watch a crowd or like have everybody cheer you guys on or anything along those lines?
Actually, all of our since the circuit that I played in was simply actually more of like the TESPA's training grounds, so that was kind of more like their off-season type thing. Well, it wasn't actually like we went to any physical like in-person events. It was all the matches we played were online. So
Okay. Very disappointed.
yeah.
But I mean, still, like, you are a bit of proof in the fact that, you know, like, an average college guy can play an esport, not professionally, but in a college level, which I think in the future, like 20, 30 years, do you think that esports will be as mainstream as modern sports are right now? In the sense that, hey man, you want to go catch the football game down, you know, wherever, and, you know, you go down there, you pay money, and you watch two teams play, and then go home and talk about the experience. It's not necessarily, you know, people still put on paint, but they're not in the, you know, they could be in the back of the stadium doing a little bit of a cookout, putting on face paint, some shit like that, you know, like the stereotypical American dream, but instead of going in to watch a football game, you watch an esports game.
I mean, if Earth still exists in like 30 years, yeah, I think we'll be good.
That's a different story.
I think that'd be really interesting. Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware, Humble Store, the Humble Bundle Store, it's multiplayer week right now, and that means that we're having discounts up to 75%. Gaming is always better with friends. That's how we, you know, live and shit. The really fun sort of Grok, can you stop?
I'm sorry.
Pay attention. Wacky Physics Brawler Gang Beasts is 33% off. 7 Days to Die is 60% off. 40% off of a lot of what is that? Chicken Horse. 50% off of Duck Game, which I think everybody highly recommends. If you haven't had the chance to pick those up, you should do that. You should pick those games up because I think they're fun. And
Yeah.
Gang Beats, I think, is still a little too expensive. I'd like it to be a little cheaper, but I suppose that's fine. Yeah, we're sponsored by Humble Bundle. That's a lie. We have no
100%
sponsors.
yes.
We have no sponsors.
No, we are totally sponsored, 100%. Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Our next segment of the show is going to be a small interview with our guest, Manatee.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Myself and Grok, really just me, are going to ask you a few questions. Grok is going to ask you a question whenever he figures one out, as am I. But I feel like it's going to take him a little longer.
Wow.
That's pretty rude.
You're not wrong.
So Manatee, you are well known throughout the Moon sub-circuit, the Moon Discord, and anything related to the Moon community, as well as our own little tight-knit community. You are known as the meme master. Few people have been able to be as savage and as memey as you, and doing so very tastefully. What do you think it takes to become a solid memer?
I think it takes a lot of just lots of observation, being able to look at what's going on and derive some kind of humor from that. Because normally you can just, I think it just comes kind of naturally, honestly.
You're saying there's a talent more so than a skill.
Certainly a combination of both.
Okay. Well, I want you to take a moment and tell me what you think your strengths are as a video game player.
I think my my mechanical aim, and well, I'm just speaking in terms of just Overwatch right now, but my mechanical aim certainly not the best. But
I said your
think,
strengths, you fucking klutz.
I'm getting to that. But the reason I say that is because I turned to more of a support role playing the game. So I found a lot of I found my kind of my niche in playing Lucio, being IGL for my teams. That was the thing I found to be best about, or that I'm best at.
You were an IGL of a team?
I was.
Oh wow. How long ago was that?
It was well, I was IGL of our old team Color Wheel. And
What do you mean hour?
Hour?
Our team?
Yeah.
Are you saying that I've never been on a team before?
Yeah, sure you haven't.
On Color Wheel, I think you did a fine job as the IGL. But I need to know some strengths. Are you saying that your major strength is being able to, make a call, make a play, in the heat of battle, being able to tell people where they need to be at that moment?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where I probably shine the best, is just being able to coordinate in a hectic situation where there's so much stuff going on that you need to be able to make some quick decisions.
So what you lack in mechanical skill, you make up for in technical skill.
I guess you could say that.
Okay, fair enough. What are you most looking forward to in the future of Overwatch? Any new seasons, maybe new characters, maybe a new meta, anything in the foreseeable future?
I'd be beating a dead horse if I talked about this whole dive meta this season, so I would like to see a new healer character, because as great as playing support is for me, I'd find it a lot of fun, but it does get quite boring playing, like, basically, the same 3 or 4 characters all the time.
Yeah, and DPS get, like, attack and defend heroes, right?
Pretty much.
And tank players are like, I'm just gonna play the same fucking tank for, like, the next 4 seasons and still get GM.
So I'd be excited to see what Blizzard can do with that. They have some pretty creative ideas, as it's shown with Sombra, Doomfist, all the new characters.
Yeah. Do you feel like, given the current hero pool, or the future hero pool from, Season 1. So, Season 1 had a very typical sort of meta, that I think we all remember, of, like, the 2-2-2 sort of setup. But then Ana was introduced, and it was a complete game changer. Now, as time has progressed, several other heroes that have come into the game, like Sombra, haven't really shaken up the meta. They seem to be very niche sort of heroes for various sort of situations. Do you think that our current new character, Doomfist, will shake up the meta in terms of Eversing or Reinhardt?
I think he absolutely will do that, simply because all of his melee abilities will be able to go through shields, and he has just such crazy mobility at the moment, both horizontally and vertically.
So it's a big fat rip to anything other than dive, so this character is strengthening dive.
I suppose. I haven't played with him too much to make an extremely informed opinion on it, but from what I've seen, yeah, it does seem like he could be a component to a dive comp, although he seems to, what he gets in mobility there, he doesn't necessarily have the options to actually get out of a fight once he's gotten his picks, sort of like where Genji would be able to use his dash reset to get out of a fight, out of danger, so he can't be picked off immediately after. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Grok, do you have a question for our boy Manatee?
Alright, here's a big one. Since you're a resident meme master in our Sub Rumble Discord, I want to know, what do you think of the Jeff meme?
It's very Jeffy. I think it's a very, very dank meme. It's been very ubiquitous there in the server.
But there's only one person pushing that meme. And,
so I guess...
And before that one person, the Jeff meme never came up.
So what you're implying is that the Jeff meme is what you would call a forced meme.
Something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say forced, per se. More like whoever this individual is came with his own sort of package with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever you congregate a person into your little group of friends, they bring some, little intricacies, little details with them about themselves, their personality bleeding out in a manner of speaking. And I feel that this individual, whoever it might be, I'm not naming names, who is posting these Jeff memes, while not necessarily forced, per se, certainly does get a little carried away with the same meme every so often, and it would nice to see a little bit of deviation, maybe a little something different. I'm just saying, if that person might be listening. Grok,
Yes.
do you have any more questions?
No.
Excellent. We're going to move on to our final piece, I suppose. I don't know if it's going to be the final one, but we're going to be talking about the Sub-Rebel Discord and things that are going to be happening in the future. So, in the Sub-Rebel, I am a deputy admin. I'm coming out of retirement, thanks to a myriad of things. And one of the first things that I think is a solid topic, Manatee, I don't know if you've been following the tournament that much, the current Invitational, but it's kind of been a bit of a mess.
I'd say so, yeah.
I don't
No.
even know when we're playing.
I haven't paid attention to everything because like I was doing everything else. I was just doing work. And you know, like when I get home, I just didn't really pay attention to anything that was going on. I figured the Invitational could handle itself, and by the time it was over, either I'd have the ability to pick it up, or you know, for the next tournament or the one after that, or not, just depending on like there were way too many situations involved with that. But as far as I know, Hyperlol will play the Savages come Friday. That might have already passed if you're listening to this in the future. Nikkei Kona and B-Bong are next as well. So we're supposed to be having all of these tournaments done in relative fashion like within the end of the week. And the beginning of next week. The 21st will be when the grand finale goes on that Moon will be casting. There are 8 games until that finale, and then we'll have one final 9th game, and that will be the finale done by Moon. But anyhow, do you have, Manatee, would you have any recommendations to the mod team in the future going about this, or should we not even try to do the Invitational ever again?
Oh, I certainly like the idea of the Invitational. I think it was a cool idea. I think the part that I just found the most strange about this was having all the teams play their matches on different dates. But then again, I guess that was just because of maybe scheduling conflicts. It is hard to get 12 people together all at once on varying time zones.
Yeah, more so than that, we dedicated basically this entire month to the Invitational, and it's sort of gone overboard, and we haven't had time for other tournaments. We haven't had time for the Diamond and Below tournament, and we will be making time in the future with the CSGO tournament, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the future. So the biggest thing that I feel, the biggest mistake that we had was we gave the players the responsibility to make these sort of things happen. And I don't think that's necessarily a fault on their own, because we are basically asking them to give up their, their Friday or their Saturday or their Sunday, their weekends basically throughout an entire month. We're saying that like once a month is fine, because you can go up to your boss or you can go to school and say, I need this one day off. Or I need this afternoon off for these hours. You can make time with that, with time to spare, because we give out the date of when the tournament's going on long in advance. So it made sense at the time to just say, do it whenever you can. An argument against that Swish brought up was, if you give a team and its players an end date, they will do what they can to make time for that day. Whatever it may be, and try to be a little more aggressive in the sense of giving end dates, giving schedules, giving end goals that we're trying to have all the players make. But unfortunately, Never Lucky and 2499 have had a big issue in terms of their scheduling, where Never Lucky, they can't seem to do anything on Friday until it's like super late. And super late Friday means that only a few hours until Saturday morning, and that's when 2499's Stan 901 needs to be at work. Stan apparently has a job where he works on the weekends, which is baffling to me that a bunch of gamers can't make time for the weekend. It just seems sort of baffling, but the situation is beyond me. Nobody could, nobody has the capability to predict something like that. In other news, we're going to talk about the CSGO tournament and its possibility. Manatee, what do you think about the possibility of having a small Counter-Strike tournament during the little bit of downtime that people have sort of lost interest in Overwatch, where you can even see that a lot of streamers aren't necessarily playing, like not just Moon, but several other streamers that typically play Overwatch have started to play other games like PUBG, Darkest Dungeon, Terraria, what the hell ever, and other video games, what have you. until Doomfist comes out, it seems like nobody's really that interested in playing the game because the meta's set in stone, and Doomfist is likely to keep the meta there, but will also add something interesting because he's a new hero, and everybody likes to play with the new characters and see where they fall. So, my question is, do you think it'd be okay to have a CSGO tournament within the Sub-Circuit Discord, or do you think that it might just be a waste of time?
I think it'd be pretty great to have a little variety in terms of this little community that we have here, but I personally never got too much into Counter-Strike other than just playing it casually, every once in a while, but it seems that a lot of interest, it's piqued a lot of people's interest, just, playing a lot of CS, like just random matches here and there. So if we're gonna host a tournament like that, I think it'd be great. Definitely bring a lot more people together, as they seem to have not as much interest in Overwatch.
Grok, your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I think the issue that I see with the CS tournament is that this sub-Rumble Discord is built around, or at least the players are like all higher ranks in Overwatch, right? We can all like have that between us. But in CS, our ranks are more like all over the place, and most of us haven't played it for like a year or years. So I mean, it's going to be hard to get back into it for people, and I feel like there's going to be one team that's going to dominate everything because they have the best players.
Right.
Yeah.
The argument against that is that players, regardless of seeing the rank, seeing that they're pretty much going to lose, an upcoming match or something like that, they still play it because the Sub-Rumble Discord and its players are typically competitive. They like the competitive nature and environment of Overwatch and likely Counter-Strike. And a lot of players that are playing Overwatch now came from either Team Fortress or Counter-Strike. And a lot of these players, I feel like they'd enjoy it. They enjoy it either way. It's not necessarily as serious. There's not a prize pool involved. At the end of the day, it's just going to be a fun little mini-series, a fun little day that we can have, and it's also going to be nicer to the stream team members because not all of them can stream Overwatch well, whereas with CS, since it's a lighter game that's on the Source engine, shouldn't be too difficult to record or stream, what have you. So I think it'll be a nice change of pace, but I am aware of the fact that nobody likes to get stomped in. But what is so bad about seeing one team dominate basically everyone else?
I mean, we all know whatever team Paisan is going to dominate with his and then he's, there's also going to be other players like Dumac, big power players, filling up the chat with very, very nice compliments.
I mean, if you look at a lot of the Steam profiles of all these players we have that are Grandmaster and above, that almost all of them have well over 1,000 hours in Counter-Strike. So I think they'd basically be going back to the roots here. It'll be a nice. Sorry, go ahead.
What about the possibility of another Diamond and Below tournament? Do you think it's a waste of the moderator's time, or do you think it'll be something that's fun for basically everybody who's Diamond and Below?
If you don't do draft teams, then go for it. Because draft teams...
We're not going to be doing draft teams. Absolutely not.
That was hell.
Draft teams were quite a mess, but at the same time, it also... I'm sure, seeing as that the majority of the people in the main... Moon Discord server are all probably lower ranks, Diamond and Below, as we say. They might be definitely see that as more of a accessible option to kind of participate in this community. Although on the other hand, it might also be very intimidating to put together a team or join one themselves. So we might end up with just a lot of free agents who don't want to make their own team. But we seem to have that problem quite often before. So
right.
I don't know exactly what we do to remedy that. Otherwise,
my biggest thing is that in Season 2, whenever the ranks were first released, everybody saw that Diamond, in general, the next season after that, a lot of players who hit Low Masters, High Diamond went almost immediately into GM. once they, rebalance that sort of thing. Because, 3700 Season 2 was considered top 500. There were not a lot of Grandmasters. It was at that time because of the fact that the rankings were so steep and that there were so many players in Diamond that they would segregate it to Diamond and below. So that, if you had anything above that, like just the raw open, it would be full of these really good players. And all of these players, typically sit at 4200. At that level of gameplay is whenever the game gets very highly competitive and you have a lot of very skilled players going up to each other in high level, high gameplay sort of matches. And so with that in mind, that's where the Diamond tournament started, was for that purpose, is because there were so many good players, but there were so many players in Diamond who couldn't break it into Masters. With our current setup, the idea is, and Pharaoh spoke about this as well, is that basically, if some player was really that competitive and really cared and really wanted to play the game, they'd likely already be Masters anyway. Or above, If they had the time, if they had the competitive nature, if they had, the monitor and the desktop and the good mouse and plenty of time to really practice with maybe a few years of experience and other FPSs behind them, then those players would likely still be in. They'd hit Masters sooner or later and just play in the open regardless. Whereas anybody below that likely might not have the time, which is why their rank is where they are. Or maybe they don't have the really nice setup. Maybe they're playing on a shitty laptop. There are way too many factors involved, but I still like the idea of relegating it down to because it seems like we're alienating that group of Masters who just can't get into GM but are better than the average Diamond. And there's also the smurfing issue that can only come from this. So it seems like there are an equal amount of negatives and positives here, and it feels like we might as well do it anyway. Just to give those players who don't get the opportunity or feel intimidated by the higher rank sort of open a chance to really get really close, to a proper victory, to winning a tournament and getting some sort of reward, perhaps. Maybe a Discord icon or something along those lines. Any number of things. And with that, we are going to end our show. Thank you, Manatee, for being on GrokRockRadio as our first guest.
Oh, certainly. Thank you for having me.
Grok, do you have any final words for GrokRockRadio?
The Jeff Babe isn't that bad.
And with that, we're out of here. Take it easy. Have a nice afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you next time.